The first sign that something was off came when a police cruiser rolled down my quiet, suburban street, sirens off, lights flashing faintly in the afternoon sun. I was halfway through trimming my hedges when the officer stepped out, hand on his belt, and asked, "Sir, do you have an unauthorized guest on your property?" I blinked. "Unauthorized what?" Before I could even answer, Patricia Hendris, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA, marched out from behind the cruiser, waving her clipboard like it was a royal decree. "There he is, officer! That's him! The man who brought an unregistered individual into the community." Now, I'd seen Patricia throw tantrums over everything, from mailbox paint to excessively cheerful wind chimes. But this was new. I turned toward the man standing on my porch, the supposed unauthorized guest. He was in a navy blazer, holding a tablet, calm as a monk in a thunderstorm. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "I told you I'm here for a scheduled compliance audit." "I sent the notice 2 weeks ago," Patricia scoffed. "Nonsense! I run the compliance reviews. You can't just walk in here pretending to be an auditor. This neighborhood doesn't work like that." The officer gave her a wary glance. "Ma'am, if he's an auditor, do you have any ID or proof that he's not supposed to be here?" That's when the man flipped open his badge. The HOA logo glinted in the sunlight, official seal and all. "David Long," he said, "Internal Auditor for the Regional HOA Oversight Committee." Patricia froze. For the first time in years, she didn't have a comeback. Her mouth twitched as she tried to piece together an excuse. "There must be some misunderstanding," she muttered. "No one told me about this." David glanced around, eyes sharp but polite. "That's the point of an audit, Ms. Hendris. It's supposed to be unannounced." You could practically hear the gears grinding in Patricia's head. She opened her mouth again, but the officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, unless this gentleman is trespassing, I suggest we let him do his job." And just like that, Patricia's perfect HOA empire started to wobble. I leaned against my hedge trimmer, fighting a grin. Whatever David was here to check, I had a feeling it was going to rattle her to the core. Because if there's one thing Patricia couldn't stand, it was someone higher up than her. And this man? He was about to dig through everything she'd been hiding for years. Patricia followed the auditor like a shadow, trying to reassert control over her crumbling kingdom. David Long, clipboard in hand, walked past her with calm precision, taking photos of community signs, walkways, and maintenance areas. The man didn't waste a step. "You'll find everything in perfect order," Patricia said, her voice tight but sugary. "Our HOA is one of the best rated in the county." David didn't respond. He simply noted something on his tablet and snapped a photo of a cracked fountain near the clubhouse. Patricia flinched like he'd just insulted her personally. I stood nearby, pretending to check my mailbox. But let's be honest, I was watching every second. The neighborhood grapevine had been buzzing for months about missing funds and delayed landscaping repairs. Patricia always had an excuse, always blamed slow contractors. David paused by the pool gate. "When was this filter last serviced?" he asked. Patricia hesitated. "Oh, last month, I believe." He flipped a page. "Records show no service call in 9 months." Her face stiffened. "Well, there must be a clerical error." David looked up, his calm demeanor barely hiding the steel beneath it. "Ms. Hendris, that's the 5th clerical error I've found today." That was the moment the whispering began. A few neighbors had gathered nearby, pretending to walk dogs or check sprinklers. Patricia's facade was cracking in real time. David turned to me. "Sir, you've lived here long?" "6 years," I said. "Long enough to see that fountain break twice." Patricia glared daggers. "Mr. Allen, your input is not necessary." David ignored her. "Interesting," he said, making another note. "And were the repair costs ever discussed in meetings?" "Oh, they were discussed," I said, unable to resist. "Then voted down when Patricia decided to handle it herself." A few neighbors snickered. Patricia's face turned crimson. "You're misrepresenting the facts," she hissed. David remained unbothered. That's exactly why I'm here, Ms. Hendress, to clarify the facts. He headed toward the HOA office, a small converted shed near the tennis court, while Patricia scrambled after him, shouting about confidential documents. No one missed the irony. For years, she'd flaunted that office like a fortress of authority. Now, the lock she installed herself was about to open to someone who actually had the power to question her. As David unlocked the door and stepped inside, Patricia's smile finally disappeared, because behind that door lay the truth she'd buried for years. The metal door creaked open like something out of a crime show. Inside, the HOA office looked exactly how I'd imagined it. Boxes stacked high, paper trails half hidden beneath, fake plants and motivational posters about community pride. But the moment David Long stepped in, you could feel the air change. Patricia tried to block his way. "Those records are private. You can't just barge in and—" David flashed his ID again, calm but firm. "By regional bylaw, I have full access to all HOA records. You'll have a chance to comment once I've reviewed them." She froze, cornered. "Fine," she hissed. "But you'll find nothing unusual." David set his briefcase down on the desk, opened his laptop, and began pulling out files from the cabinet. The tapping of his keys echoed like a countdown. I stood at the doorway with a few other neighbors, pretending to be casual. But truthfully, every one of us was holding our breath. It didn't take long. David murmured. "Multiple transactions to PH Consulting? Ms. Hendress, would you explain this vendor?" Patricia stiffened. "That's a consulting firm I use for administrative assistance." David's eyes narrowed. "Payments totaling over $18,000 in the last fiscal year?" Her voice faltered. "Well, we, had a lot of community improvements." He turned the screen toward her. "Except none of those improvements exist in your expense reports, nor in the community minutes. And the business license for PH Consulting is registered under your name." The room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the old fluorescent light. I glanced at my neighbor Karen, no relation to the HOA Karen, and she mouthed, "She's done." Patricia's face drained of color. "That's not illegal. I was reimbursing myself for volunteer hours." David closed his laptop. "Ms. Hendress, that's called self-dealing. It's a direct violation of HOA governance law. And given the amount involved, it may also fall under criminal misappropriation." You'd think that would silence her. But Patricia wasn't built to go quietly. She slammed her palm on the desk. "You don't know what it's like running this place. I kept everything together while everyone else complained." David didn't flinch. "Then perhaps it's time someone else took over." He stood, collected the files, and said evenly, "I'll be filing an immediate report with the regional board. You'll receive formal notice within the week." Patricia's reign had ended in the same office where it began, under fluorescent lights and false pride. And for the first time in years, the neighborhood finally saw who she really was. Word spread faster than wildfire. By morning, every mailbox had a copy of the official notice. Patricia Hendress temporarily suspended pending investigation. The HOA board had been called into emergency session. Half the neighborhood gathered on their lawns with coffee mugs, whispering like they were watching a live courtroom drama. I stood near the fountain, still cracked, still leaking, when Patricia stormed out of her house, phone pressed to her ear. She wasn't wearing her usual power blazer, just a faded pink robe and slippers that slapped the pavement with every furious step. "David, this is harassment!" she barked into the phone. "You can't just humiliate me in front of my community." From the way she paced, it was clear no one on the other end was sympathizing. Then, as if on cue, David's black sedan pulled up again. He stepped out calmly, a clipboard in hand. The crowd hushed. "Ms. Hendress," he said professionally, "I'm here to collect your HOA-issued materials, your keys, access card, and financial records." "You can't do this," she snapped. "I built this neighborhood. Without me, it'll fall apart." David didn't raise his voice. "It already was, ma'am. You just didn't notice." The words hit her harder than a punch. Patricia's grip on the clipboard trembled. She looked around for allies, but every neighbor avoided her eyes. Even her closest supporters, the ones who used to defend every ridiculous citation she handed out, were silent. That's when she saw me standing by the fence. "You," she spat. "This is your fault. You and your guest started this circus." I shrugged. "He wasn't my guest, Patricia. He was your boss. That did it." She let out a bitter laugh, half crazed. "You think this makes you heroes? When I'm gone, you'll see how hard this job really is." David kept it businesslike, signing the final form and handing her a copy. "The board will appoint an interim president within 72 hours. You'll be contacted by the regional office for an interview." She ripped the paper from his hand, crumpled it, and stormed off toward her house. The robe fluttered behind her like a tattered flag of defeat. As she slammed her door, the neighborhood let out a collective sigh. Someone actually clapped. David turned to me. "Thank you for cooperating." "Mr. Allen, it helps when residents speak honestly." "Anytime," I said. "We've been waiting for this cleanup for years." He nodded once, then walked off, leaving behind a silence that felt like peace for the first time in ages. By sunset, a notice went up on the community board. Special meeting to elect new leadership. Open to all homeowners. Patricia's empire had fallen. And just like that, the HOA that once ruled by fear finally belonged to the people again. If you enjoyed watching this crazy HOA drama, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment about what you'd have done in my place, and subscribe for more wild neighborhood stories just like this one. Trust me, the next one's even crazier.